It's generally difficult to talk about the importance of Captain Tsubasa without addressing the elephant in the room. For most of the world, this is a series known primarily for the animated adaptation that aired between 1983 and 1986. But even though it never really broke through in English-speaking countries, Captain Tsubasa was one of the flagship cartoons across Europe, South America, and the Middle East in the late 80s and mid-90s. That's exactly why this new wave of games and animated adaptations makes sense in a globalized Anglo-centric economy. But at the same time, you know that the interest generated by this game will remain mostly a phenomenon outside English-speaking markets. Captain Tsubasa Rise of the New Champions was a surprise hit for a lot of people. But now, 6 years later, Tamsoft is back with a sequel that finally adapts one of the most beloved arcs in the manga. The question is, does it live up to the legacy? Welcome back, I'm Zarathustra, better known as Zaru, and this is my review of Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters. 6 years have passed since Captain Tsubasa Rise of the New Champions came out. That was the arcade soccer game from Tamsoft based on Yoichi Takahashi's long-running manga, and despite all that time, Bandai Namco and Tamsoft have kept the project alive with a steady stream of DLCs and paid expansions, followed by free patches and additional modes. The first game was part of a broader push to relaunch the brand globally, alongside a new anime adaptation from David Production and Studio Kai. That series ran for 2 seasons and 91 episodes, covering the manga's first 3 story arcs. This new entry, Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters, builds its story around the 4th arc instead, the World Youth storyline, originally published between 1994 and 1997. And here's the crucial part. No previous anime adaptation, not even the most recent one, has ever fully covered this stretch of the manga. So Tamsoft is planting its roots directly in this narrative no man's land. The approach mirrors the episode of New Hero mode from the previous game. You create a custom player who joins Tsubasa and his teammates on the journey. Everything is told from your avatar's point of view. At the start, you're playing alongside Tsubasa at Sao Paulo Football Club with your friend Pepe by your side. Non-interactive cutscenes still let you keep tabs on Tsubasa's former Japanese teammates from afar, which gives you a reasonably complete picture of the wider story. Much like its predecessor, World Fighters offers a single-player campaign split into 3 sections. Once you've cleared the first one, which follows the manga closely and was expanded with input from Takahashi himself, you can branch into custom campaigns built around clashes with some of the series' most iconic teams and players. In this sense, Tamsoft is following the template of the earlier game almost slavishly, offering that trademark Captain Tsubasa blend of acrobatic pitch action and heartfelt personal drama. To progress, you need to win every match by at least 1 goal. But each fixture also throws in micro-objectives that unlock content and stat boosts. That means replaying certain matches under specific conditions, sometimes letting the opposition score, or triggering a disadvantageous situation for your own team, or playing your custom character out of position. If you want your avatar to access all the signature moves, unlock your teammates' hidden potential, or teach them new techniques. Many of these objectives recreate classic panels from Takahashi's manga, which fans will definitely appreciate. And the game never loses sight of the human dimension typical of the original storytelling. Captain Tsubasa is a sports series at heart, but for over 40 years it has also been a vessel for stories about young athletes from all over the world, each coming from a different background. Some play for fun, some play to test themselves, some play to forge bonds with teammates. Takahashi has never shied away from the tougher subjects either. Difficult childhoods, social contexts marked by pain and inequality, abuse and injustice. The game only brushes against these themes, and even in the manga, they mostly serve to add a dramatic weight to what remains, at its core, a soccer story. Still, Tamsoft makes a genuine effort to weave them into the narrative. The storytelling comes through dialogue scenes before and after matches, as well as during the action itself. This does fragment the flow on the pitch, but it also gives you exactly the kind of dramatic cutscene punctuated rhythm you would expect from a licensed Captain Tsubasa title. Luckily, if you'd rather keep the game flowing interrupted, you can turn off the in-match narrative inserts entirely. With World Fighters, Tamsoft has overhauled the gameplay in a big way. Most of the changes are for the better, but a few design choices struck me as, at the very least, curious. Given how different the sequel is from the first game, it's worth going through all the shifts in detail, for newcomers and veterans alike. The previous game was never a simulation, but it still felt approachable to anyone used to the big soccer titles of its time. Short and long passes had their own dedicated buttons, ball physics demanded a modest learning curve, and how well you controlled the pitch depended not just on the player stats, but also on your own hand-eye coordination and timing. World Fighters streamlines the controls considerably. Multi-button combinations are gone, and the ball's behavior has been smoothed out. It now stays glued to a player's feet in almost every situation, so loose balls during scrambles are a rarity. Short and long passes now share a single button. Visual indicator lines show which opponent your control player is marking. That helps during the campaign, but it also gives the same information to a human opponent in local versus matches, which can be detrimental to the experience. As in the first game, there are no fouls, no cards, and no real-world rules, except offside, which somehow survived in the previous entry, but never triggered once during my time with the review build of the sequel. It might not even be considered in the game, but I can't say for sure, since the extensive tutorial mode never touches on the subject. Defensive and evasive moves revolve around stamina management. Tackles and sliding challenges can be charged up like shots, which increases their reach. Managing stamina is still crucial. Sprinting and dribbling drain the gauge quickly, so you have to use them wisely. Time your inputs well, and you can evade tackles while consuming less stamina, effectively mimicking a parry system complete with flashy animations that make each successful dodge feel rewarding. The new max actions add another layer to the gameplay. They are devastatingly effective, both as defensive and offensive moves, but their wind-up animation leaves them open to a well-timed counterattack. On top of these additions, goalkeeping has been completely reworked. Every time the opponents shoot, a brief sequence triggers. Its length depends on the distance of the attacker's position. During that split second, you have to guess which of 6 trajectory directions the shooter has chosen. Guess right, and you pull off a spectacular save. Guess wrong, and it severely depletes the goalie's stamina gauge. Of course, even successful saves drain the keeper's stamina, but if you read the trajectory correctly, you can still make the stop as long as the shot's power doesn't completely overwhelm the keeper's remaining energy. If the power gap is too wide, the shot is unstoppable. It guarantees a goal and triggers a break sequence. The ball tears through the net and permanently reduces the keeper's maximum stamina for the rest of the match. With all these changes, Tamsoft's intent is clear: make World Fighters more accessible, cut the remaining ties to realistic soccer games, and lean fully into arcade territory. This doesn't feel like a simplified alternative to EA's or Konami's games. It feels like a sports-themed action title, where rock, paper, scissors logic and quick-time minigames are what really matter. The new systems are easy to pick up after a couple of matches, but the real challenge is mastering them against human opponents who have put in the hours. The V-Zone team boost from the first game has been replaced by a chain system, which also rewards skillful play with power units, but chain can backfire. If you tackle an opponent who's carrying a powered-up ball, you steal their accumulated power level, turning the rolling sphere into a tickling time bomb. At maximum charge, any shot on goal is essentially a guaranteed score. On top of that, each player has individual skills tied to a super meter. These go beyond super shots and include position-specific abilities, special passes that knock down nearby opponents, unstoppable dribbles, and tackles that can win the ball back even from across the pitch. These moves require a full meter and careful timing. A charging super shot, for instance, can be cut short by a well-placed slide tackle. This is where the fan service really kicks in. Every special move gets a cinematic sequence with flashy, dynamic direction. The pinnacle of this is the miracle actions, ultra-rare automatic sequences that recreate iconic and gloriously unrealistic moments from the manga. They don't pop up often because triggering them requires very specific conditions. Ken Wakashimazu's famous triangle kick defense, for example, can only activate twice per match and only when the keeper's stamina is low and you try a rightward save against a shot aimed left. Miracle team moves have similarly strict positional criteria. As you can imagine, they're not exactly easy to pull off. I realize that on paper all these mechanics might sound overwhelming, but once a match gets going, everything flows with surprising ease. Yes, Tamsoft has simplified player movement and ball control, but it has also added more immediate subsystems and minigames that keep matches lively. There's still enough depth to clearly separate newcomers from veterans who have finished the single-player campaign. The game tests your tactical awareness, your timing, and your ability to react to the unpredictable. Despite all these introductions, the managerial side of things is fairly thin. You can customize your avatar's appearance and skills, borrowing up to 3 unique moves from the game's large roster. The car pack RNG from the first game is gone. World Fighters handles unlocks differently. Micro-objectives in story mode and optional side scenarios are now how you earn new moves from your custom player. Pure star progression, on the other hand, seemed to have little impact during my time with the game. The locker room screen shows numerical stats and lets you make substitutions at kickoff and halftime, but I never felt that those numbers decisively influenced the outcome. What really matters is the player holding the controller and how they move the team around the pitch. Noticeably absent is anything like the first game's Dream Team Edit mode, which let you build up to 5 fully customized squads, appearance, skills, everything. You can still adjust the lineups and benches of the 22 teams in the base game, but you can't create new ones from scratch. That's a shame given the roster of over 110 athletes. Even if Tamsoft clearly prioritized balance, especially for competitive play. Still, not being able to put together your own all-star dream team, even offline, feels like a notable omission for a fan-oriented title. I should also be transparent. I wasn't able to test the online multiplayer before launch. What did become clear though, is that beyond the campaign, there aren't many alternatives mode to sink your teeth into once you master the basics. The in-game currency earned from side tasks also feels underused. Gone are the emblems and custom kits that added personality to Dream Team Edit. What's left is mostly hairstyles for your avatar, new unlockable songs for the gallery, and some alternate balls colors. Bandai Namco will almost certainly expand the game post-launch with paid DLCs and free patches, as they did with the previous game's freestyle mode. But unless you plan to invest in online or local multiplayer, World Fighters may only offer enough content for dedicated fans of the original manga, especially those hungry for new story material and 3D recreations of its legendary matches. Tamsoft's visual work deserves praise. The cel shading faithfully captures the bold colors and frantic energy of the recent anime series, delivering spectacular on-pitch action and animations that are a pleasure to watch. The narrative interludes, by contrast, can feel static, at times evoking the visual novel style of 3D character conversations, but that's easy to overlook given the wealth of optional story events. A few emotional beats are even punctuated by special animated sequences drawn in a retro manga-like style. The score by Tadayoshi Makino, known for Monster Hunter World and Tekken 8, is excellent. So, what's the final verdict? Zaru said, "All things considered, Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters trades some of its predecessors' depth and creative freedom for a pure arcade feel, and it turns that trade-off into something unique, spectacular and approachable. An arcade soccer game with layered difficulty, whose main strengths are fanservice and competitive play, but which also leaves a few regrets over the modes left behind. A game that knows exactly what it means to be a Captain Tsubasa adaptation, and is rather less sure about what it means to be a title built to last." And that's the thing, really. World Fighters is a game that understands its identity as a Captain Tsubasa adaptation perfectly. It nails the drama, the spectacle, the over-the-top action, but it's less certain about what it wants to be in the long run. If you're a fan of the manga or the anime, especially if you've been waiting to see the World Youth arc finally get some love, there's a lot here for you. The gameplay is tighter, more accessible, and generally fun in short bursts. But if you're looking for something with the depth and longevity of the first game, you might come away feeling like something's missing. That's my take on Captain Tsubasa's 2 World Fighters. What about you? Are you excited to finally play through the World Youth arc, or do you think the first game offered more? Let me know in the comments below.